Hey guys, let's do some brake lines on Saturn. I'll show you a little bit about the brake lines going front, back, side to side and all that. But we're doing some front ones up there. First thing I did was pop the trunk and disconnect the battery with an 8mm wrench. Trunk popper buttons right there. And got all this stuff out of the way. I'll show you how I got all this stuff out of the way. Really only took a couple minutes. Unplugged the computer. Got that whole fuse box out of the way, and now we can see the lines that are leaking up here. You can see they're all bundled up here. And it looks like they've already been, look how clean these black coated ones are. They're good. From the master cylinder though, they're not coated or anything. And they're coming to the left and the right side of this valve. So those are the ones we're gonna replace today, and then we gotta go around and bleed the brakes, right? So I got a 13mm line wrench on that fitting to the master cylinder, and we need to know which one goes where. So make sure you figure that out. Let's see, the back one goes, vroom, vroom. The back one on the master cylinder right there goes to the front side of the valve. All right, so now we can take both these lines out. I'm not sure which one's leaking, but I'm going to replace them both. They're leaking right down in this bundle right here. I'm not too worried about getting them looking perfect. We're gonna fabricate our own lines today. Let's get these lines taken off though. Here's a spool of 3/16 line, that's what we need. You can buy a chunk at the parts store that's already got fittings on it. I'm not sure if they're gonna be the right fittings or not, but you can buy a chunk. There's a line, I cut off a chunk that's a little too long. We always want to give ourselves extra in case of mistakes and whatnot. Here is the fitting that went to the back of the master cylinder. You can see it's a different shape, a different size. It's skinnier on the threads than this one. I'm gonna take my little Dremel tool and just cut this off so I can get my fitting and wire wheel the threads on the fitting. They look pretty good, but I'm still gonna clean up and reuse that fitting. Then I'm gonna put this fitting on our new chuck of line and flare it. I'll show you the flaring. Our fitting looks brand new and shiny. After a wire wheeling, we're gonna use this brake flaring kit. It was like $18 on eBay, something like that. They're real cheap. All right, so we're gonna clamp the line in the 3/16 spot, and then we're gonna drive this tool into it. All right. I got a bunch of sets of brake flaring tools. I use this one. I like this one better. It's got like a little grooves that locks into the bar. But anyways, this is what it looks like. You clamp the line in so it's sticking out just a little bit. Tighten up each handle so that it clamps the line. And then you turn this in, and the sharp point of that will make a flare in the line. I'll show you what it looks like. There we go, one perfect flare. There's our fitting, comes up to it. Now, this was the fitting that looked different from the rest. It goes to the back of the master cylinder. So I'm gonna screw this in to the back of the master cylinder and get it almost tight, not all the way, and then start routing it along with these other lines. See, we got our little hold down there, and the bottom of it unclips to release the two bottom lines coming from the master cylinder. See, they go in those two slots. So I'll run this line through those two slots and be very careful and make a 90-degree bend right here. Bending tools are awesome. If you're using copper nickel line, it bends easier than the steel. So I'm probably just gonna bend it by hand. Got her plugged in there, comes over, goes into there, and we're down on the inside of this bolt, this stud. It comes over, and I got a nice little bend going, so we're gonna have to chop it. I got way too much line. We're gonna have to chop it wherever we want to, really. Always leave yourself a little bit extra, so I'll chop it like right here, and then I'll twist the line over. Just give it a little bend this way so it can plug into the front here. All right, we got our line routed there. Boom. And I hadn't tightened up both fittings yet. because I want to get the other line put on and make sure we have a little bit of wiggle in it so we can set both lines right where we want to. So let's repeat the process with the second line, the front of the master cylinder to the rear of this valve. And the important thing is, do not cross thread these fittings. It's very easy to cross thread them compared to other bolts. Don't cross thread them. If they're not going in smooth, take it back out, make sure it's going in smooth. All right, we're all connected, folks. I got those fittings fairly tight. All I had to do was open the cap and it starts gravity bleeding. So we're getting all the air out of there. So our braking lines was from the master cylinder to the valve. So that's where all the air should be, is right there. Now, there might be a little air at the top of these fittings. I can loosen them, make sure all the air is out of there. So what we're gonna do is tighten these two fittings and loosen these ones and let them gravity bleed some air out there. If there's still some air on the lines, then we'll go and do each bleeder valve on each wheel. Lots of videos on bleeding brakes. But this will get most of the air out right here, and it only takes a minute. Saturn Ion brake line diagram. Front line on the valve goes to the front left tire. Next line, this one, goes to the rear passenger. Next one, rear driver side. Last one, going back towards the vehicle, front right. The one coming in through the back of the valve, the backmost, that one goes to the frontmost on the master cylinder. And our last line, the rear on the master cylinder, is going to this front on the valve. And that's your brake line diagram for a Saturn. It's gonna work for a lot of years, and this one is a 2006. So if you got the same setup with the 4-cylinder here, should work for you. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace. All right, it's time to wrap everything up. No matter what line you're doing on the vehicle, whether you're doing them all or one, same basic concept, fitting on each end of the brake line. Make sure the brake line's going wherever it needs to go, you know? Like if you need to do that front left, then you're doing this one, you know? All right, but to get into all this crap and run them the proper way, you got to get all this stuff out of the way, right? So what we started with, well, what we ended with is this box here, this fuse box. We're gonna shove that back down in place. We need to make sure all our wires go where our wires need to go. Get all our wires out of the way here. All right, we got our 2 connectors to the computer here. That's a good spot for them. 1 connector here to the fuse box, a little wire. It went here on a 10 mil. We had some wires that went here, 2 of them. Where did they run off to? They're right here. Well, there's 1 of them. And where's the other one? We're gonna find out where that other, I'm pretty sure there was 2 on this stud, people. Maybe it's underneath my box. So before I put this box down, I need to know where that went. Found it. It was under the box. All right, so now we got our 2 power wires here accessible. Go, we got to put it on these 2 studs. 2 studs for us. Go, and it's locked in place. I'll show you. So we had, here's our hardware. We had the 10 millimeter there, 10 millimeter there, and then we have a 13 millimeter that goes in through the side there. So when you're taking this apart, just reverse order it from what I'm telling you. So we got the 10 millimeter here in the fuse box. And this guy actually routes underneath this harness. There we go. These two wires hooked up. I'm not gonna tighten it down yet, just gonna quickly try to show you everything. Just gonna get everything loose and I'll tighten it all up off cam. And we do have one coolant hose that goes here. It's kind of a pain to get off. It was on there pretty good. Well, before we put the computer on, we definitely want to get, I'd say, the 13mm tight that goes into the side. Well, 13. We'll tighten this bad boy up. Now the computer just hooks on. That's it. No hardware. And I'll show you that. So this is kind of a funky little jungle gym they got going on. It's a little crazy. So I tighten that 13. And I think I'll tighten this 10 up. Always get to this 10 over here anytime. Of course, we got the cover off of the fuse box. So we'll have to put that back on. That just clips right on. That should be self-explanatory. Go, we're tight. Now it's time for our computer. She looks like this. And you see on the back there's these little clips. They open up. And this one locked itself back in. This one. So what we're gonna do is just take a flathead to open these up. Popped right open. And I have to remember where they clipped on at. All right, I got my bottom one. Now for the middle. There we go. And the top. They kind of got to press in a little bit. There we go. Now we can close the clips. Make sure they're locked in. One more. The middle one. There we go. Coolant hose. Coming back around. A little slot behind the computer that it fits into. Hose is back on there. Bada boom. There's our fuse box cover. Now we got to put the computer back in place. Make sure you got your seals. They don't fall out. This seal on this one tried to fall out on me. We'll put it back in there where it goes. Give me a flathead. Push that seal back over into its spot. All right, so how these work is you press them in and then pull the tab over and that locks them in. Press it in to its groove, pull the tab over. One more right here. Press it in, tab over. All right, so if you want to take them off, you press in on this little button and then slide the guy over and finagle it out. It takes a little bit of force, not much, but a little bit. And there we go, guys. Awesome, eh? That's how you get down to all that. Like I said, it only takes a minute or two to get all this taken out. I held this back with the bungee cord, just keep it out of my way. I gotta tighten up this, put the cover back on. And bleeding the brakes worked out great from doing it here. So we gravity bled these two sides, and I had a buddy press in on the brake pedal slowly, and then while he held it to the floor, I tightened these fittings. And then I sprayed these four with PP Blaster and loosened them all up and had him slowly pressing on the pedal. While he was holding it, I closed them all and then went one by one. Got a lot of air out of this back one. And then we tested the brakes, and the brakes are great, right where they should be. Didn't have to bleed them from all the bleeders. But of course, you can always do that. That'll about wrap up this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Take care.